Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to All Things Division III Soccer with Simple Coach and Jackie. I am Simple Coach, and you know what? Look who is there, sleeping in her chair. Jackie. Yeah, kind of feels right, doesn't it? Like, she's always been there, so nice to have her back on her throne. Hey, thanks for tuning in for this week. I think it's week 6 of the Simple Coach Men's Ranking, Top 25. Really do appreciate it. Should be interesting. A couple notes about it before we go down that road. These games, this ranking goes up to October 15th, which was Sunday. Today is, I know it's late, Thursday that I'm recording this, so that was 4 days ago. There were a bunch of bangers that happened over yesterday, and I think there's a game or two today that could impact the top 25, but we won't see that impact until the next week 7 rankings. So just so we're clear, the records are as of Sunday, not as of today, Thursday. Couple of notices. Case Western is the only team that dropped out of the top 25, suffering 2 straight losses. So the way this generally works is as the season, I just say generally, not always true, but generally speaking, the longer you're in the season, the more impactful losses have. So, and on the flip side of that, I have added Denison, and I still, I'm wondering if it's premature, but they do seem pretty legit, especially since beating Kenyon, which was pretty significant. So that said, for Kenyon, you'll see the biggest drop is Kenyon. They're basically 2 consecutive losses over the weekend. The biggest jump is for Trinity, Texas, who I think is pretty much found its footing. And then lastly, the controversy. I've kind of reassessed Franklin and Marshall and Johns Hopkins, hoping this week we could settle that dispute on the soccer field as F&M and Johns Hopkins play each other in Baltimore on Saturday, which Simple Coach may be in attendance for that match. But I'm going to run through this. Again, this is sort of, the pre-week. I think next week you'll see a lot more changes, a lot more, it could be more interesting. But I'm going to run right into this, and we'll take it from there. Sound good? Let's start with number 25, down 3 spots. Hope College at 9-1-2. They did tie Calvin, and they did have wins against Olivet and Kalamazoo. They keep showing well. I think what's happening, what you see, some adjustments. Down 3 is probably not real based on their performance, but there's some adjustments that happen where I think the one team is better, and so I think that's the result of that. So at 24, hopping in, as I mentioned, not ranked before, at 9-1-3, Denison. They had, a very, very big, solid win against Kenyon, and then they followed up with a win at Wabash. I think if they're as good as I think they can be, they could end the season at 12-1-3, 13-1-3, 13-1-2, I think it is. Anyhow, at 23, Wisconsin Platteville at 8-1-2. Since losing to Eau Claire, they beat St. Olaf, Wisconsin Stout, and Dubuque. They are up 2 spots. Also up 2 spots in 22nd place, 9-1-4, North Park. They had wins against Wheaton and Elmhurst. Next up is Chicago, which we're not sure what we're going to get out of Chicago, and then Dubuque. Excuse me, Carroll, not Dubuque. Wrong line. So North Park goes up against Chicago and Carroll. Speaking of down 3 spots, sorry, Coach Day, on this one I'm reveling a little bit in. At 8-3-2, John Carroll. They lost to my mighty Purple Raiders, and then they beat Capital, although a little bit unconvincingly, if you ask me. Next up is BW, followed by Marietta. So we'll see what happens. At 20, 11-1-1 is Dickinson. They didn't have a game since the last poll. They do have DeSalle and Swarthmore up next, so they're just down a spot. Like I said, more for adjustment's sake. Nobody's a lock. So at 10-3 in 19th is McAllister. They're down 4 spots. They beat St. Scholastica and then lost to Carleton, and they don't have a game this weekend, so not until next week. Okay, at 10-2-1, up 5 spots. They've really sort of gone on a streak. At 18th, Montclair State. They continue to win. They're now on a 10-game winning streak with wins against Alvernia and Rutgers Newark. They do have a big game on Saturday. This is an NJAC battle against Rowan. I think that one's on the EJ weekly picks, so hopefully you can play in that. Also up 4 spots in 17th at 8-2-1, Claremont Mud Scripps. They beat Laverne and Caltech. And next up is a pretty tough game against Occidental and then University of the Redlands. The first of the adjusted teams, Johns Hopkins, is now 16th at 7-3-3, down 8. They tied Salisbury and lost to Gettysburg, and I just think you see how ineffective they can be in front of goals. Sometimes they got it, sometimes they don't. When they don't, like against Gettysburg, you're just kind of like, well, you gotta find that piece of the puzzle. So down 2 spots, 5-1-4 in 15th is Connecticut College. They tied Hamilton, then beat the U.S. Coast Guard. Bates is up next. Still not sure about Connecticut College. And now for the biggest drop, as I mentioned, down 10 spots in 14th, 7-2-3, Kenyon College, formerly at 4th, now at 14th. They lost to Ohio Wesleyan and Denison. Rough week. Conversely, up 7 spots in 13th, 10-0-2, Trinity, Texas. They had big wins against Texas Lutheran and Southwestern. I was really impressed with them against Southwestern. At Texas Lutheran. That ended up, I think they came from behind twice and ended up winning with 30 seconds left, 3-2. And I think that showed a lot of resilience and character. So really impressed. They just keep marching forward. They should have a good week as they face Dallas and Austin College up next. So at 9-3-3, up 2 spots. It's probably generous, but Cortland State in 12th. After losing to Williams, they racked up wins against Oswego and Potsdam. They play Fredonia. I think it's today or yesterday. And then they are on the black turf of Morrisville, on Saturday, and then SUNY Delhi on Sunday. The other adjusted team, up 5 spots, 7-0-6, Franklin and Marshall, tied Lebanon Valley, then showed up big and throttled Muhlenberg 4-2. They were up 4-1 at halftime. I mean, it's effectively over. Next up is The Game. They travel to Johns Hopkins. So in 10th spot, 8-2-2, Williams, up 2 spots. They tied Wesleyan, and now they have a week off. So in 9th, Up 2 spots at 8-1-3. Occidental. They did tie Chapman, then beat Bethesda. Claremont Mudd, Scripps, and Caltech are up next for them. So, also up 2 spots at 9-2-2. They keep doing it in the OAC. Ohio Northern. They had wins at BW and Muskingum. Next up is Heidelberg and Capital. Also up 2 spots to 7th, 11-0-2, Gustavus Adolphus. They had wins at St. John's and home against Wisconsin Superior. They play Concordia Moorhead on Saturday. Then a huge game against St. Olaf next Wednesday. I'm really tracking that one. That should be interesting. In 6th, same as it ever was, same as last week, Wisconsin Eau Claire, 10-1-3, tied Simpson, then beat Carroll. Wisconsin Stout is up next. And now we go to the top 5. At 10-0-2 in 5th, Middlebury. Babson and Colby are the latest to fall. They are away at Tufts on Saturday, which has huge implications. NESCAC, Simple Coach rankings, like just huge. I will say somebody I trust their opinion sent me an email and said that they think this is the best, Middlebury is the best team in the country, that they had seen them 3 times live. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Speaking of away at Tufts on Saturday, at number 4, 9-0-2, Tufts. They beat Bates. They have huge games had against Amherst, and they face Middlebury on Saturday, obviously. They are up 1 spot. Amherst at number 3, 8-1-2. They had a win at Emerson, and then yesterday they played Tufts. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Leaving our final two. Number 2 at 10-1-2, unchanged. Colorado College. Wins at Concordia and McMurray. They face, it's a tough slate. Southwestern and Texas Lutheran up next. Which leaves number 1. Simple Coach? No. At 13-0-1. No change. This is probably the 5th week. Maybe they've been there the whole time, even preseason. At number 1, Mary Washington. 13-0-1. They keep winning. This time they had wins against Stevenson, which was tight. I don't get why. And then I think they won 3-0 at against Christopher Newport. They have North Carolina Wesleyan and Salisbury up next. Okay. So that about does it for the Simple Coach Top 25 for week 6. Some movement, getting interesting. I think there's these matchups that are happening that are really going to impact the ranking. I will add that, I don't just track these teams in case anybody, I have a bigger list of teams that I follow that I think are sort of like, I call them the elite, right? Like this group of teams. And there's probably about 13 to 15 additional teams that I keep an eye on, that I watch. I try to check their games out. I just keep track of them because I always think that they could, if they convince me, I'll pop them into the top 25 when it's right. I'm actually going to do a video of it because I thought that would be interesting. I'm not going to do anything too in depth, but there's some great teams out there, and I think it would be cool to just sort of talk about those not in the rankings. So I'm going to try to do that this weekend. Maybe get a couple videos out, both on the men's and the women's. So. And I think actually, if I look at my notes, I will tell you, I have on the men, as of right now, I have 12, 13. Yeah, 12, 13. I mean, in some teams, like I've talked about, and I've mentioned them before, right? Like, I mean, I'll just throw out, like, I've never lost sight of Washington and Lee. Think they started out poorly. They have a new coach, so okay. But you know what? There's some crazy things going on down there that, in a good way. So, but so I'm going to do a video. Be on the lookout for that. Again, I know some of you already have. Please opine on my top 25. I hold no claim to fame that this is perfect. This is right. This is just my impression of things and sort of where we stand right now. I don't have a real science to it, as I've spoken before. So, but if you think I'm wrong, by all means, please chime in. I am most definitely willing to engage. So you can shoot me an email. You can post on d3soccer.fans. You can join the Patreon page and you can post there, or shoot me an email and I will gladly respond. And like I said, I love to engage in this stuff. It's fun. We don't have many more weeks left, right? So, yeah, it's getting interesting. It's getting hairy. So, anyhow, on behalf of myself and Jackie, right, girl, just want to say thank you. Thanks for all the continued support. Thanks for all the kudos and the notes that you send me. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we will be in touch very soon. Have a good one.